Hello, beautiful community. A good late evening and a small comment about the terrible attacks on Ukraine today, and in particular the striking of the country's biggest children's hospital. A few small remarks and a bigger analytical remark. Targeting medical infrastructure isn't new when it comes to Russian conduct. We've seen it in Syria. We've seen it in Chechnya. We don't know whether that's what they were doing today, but at a minimum, they were firing missiles into densely populated residential areas. Small comment about how this hits Western citizens. I still think there is outrage, but it's a different quality of outrage to what there was 2 years ago. Partly because it's buffered by what people have seen in Gaza, and partly because it's no longer accompanied by a theory of victory that is articulated by Western politicians that looks to Western citizens to be viable. And as a result, the further you travel east in Europe, the more likely you are to hear this has got to end by us kicking Putin's butt. The further you travel west, the more you hear this has got to end, and then 3 dots, open-endedly. Analytical remark. Do not underestimate how far everything the Russians do may be aimed at the inducement of political crisis in Ukraine. Not just what Russia does propaganda-wise, what Russia does politically, even what Russia does militarily. We've been talking for a few weeks about the Kharkiv offensive, and a part of Russia's aspiration to get within artillery firing distance of Kharkiv was political. So don't underestimate that. And when you're looking at what you've seen today, you're not just talking about Russia's intent to exhaust Ukraine's air defenses, to deprive Ukraine of electricity, but also to induce political crisis by making a situation bad for Ukraine that is also a situation out of which Ukraine currently has no clear escape. There is no path tangibly available to Ukraine to reacquire all of its territories, and no major Western power supports that. But there is also no clear path available for Ukraine to take steps toward consolidating a future where the state clearly survives and there is a possibility for rebuilding after the war. Why not? That's predicated on Western security guarantees. Simply arming Ukraine more won't be enough for this. There will need to be Western security guarantees. Until they come, Ukraine is not in a position where it can take tangible steps toward stopping the war in a productive way, stopping the war in a way that isn't utterly self-destructive for Ukraine. And because now negotiating to stop the war without these guarantees from the West would be so destructive for Ukraine, Putin is keen on ventilating that idea. Stopping the war for Putin, whose aims haven't changed, is a way of winning the war better. Later, it may be that Putin doesn't intend to conquer Ukraine's capital the way he aspired to a couple of years ago, but full political control over Ukraine is still an aspiration, and one key way to it is through the inducement of political crisis in Ukraine. So don't underestimate how far that is what the Russians are doing. That's my quick take today. Lots of love.